In the spring of 2007, the estate of a woman in Pennsylvania filed a lawsuit against several businesses that she had worked for as a draftsman. The woman had died from mesothelioma she contracted as a result of asbestos exposure. The death of a draftsman is bad enough, but a case in England demonstrates how much more frightening and pervasive asbestos exposure can be. The plaintiff in the case was a 35-year-old woman who had mesothelioma. Her father had worked as a draftsman in a mine for 2 years when she was a very small child. She didn't visit the mine herself, but her father unknowingly brought asbestos fibers home every day on his clothes. The young child inhaled the asbestos and 35 years later had developed a devastating disease. Draftsmen, or drafters as they are now called sometimes, are the people who draw the designs for just about everything, from auto design to mineshaft design to architectural drawings. The draftsman doesn't necessarily design the thing on which they are working. Rather, they are the person who puts a concept on paper so other people can visualize the completed project. For draftsmen working in the mining and construction industries from the 1940s through the 1970s and somewhat beyond, that meant being on work sites that had a lot of asbestos in the air. Prior to the mid-1970s, there was almost no regulation on asbestos, despite the fact that as long ago as in ancient Greece, scholars had noted that people who worked with the most with asbestos had lung problems. Asbestos was a cheap and effective insulator used extensively in the steel working industry, shipbuilding, and construction. Anyone on a site where asbestos or products made with asbestos was being used faced the possibility of breathing contaminated air. Unfortunately, the workers didn't know how dangerous that was, even if the government and some of the larger employers did know. As a result, few, if any, precautions were taken to prevent asbestos from being inhaled, and no warnings were given about taking asbestos home inadvertently on clothing. As a result, not only were the draftsmen exposed, but also, like the 35-year-old mesothelioma victim, so were their families. Asbestos is a naturally occurring mineral that is found in different forms in many locations within the United States. When asbestos is manipulated, it has a tendency to slough off tiny fibers and dust that are very light and easily become airborne. When people inhale the asbestos fibers, the fibers travel into the lungs and become stuck to the tissue that lines the chest cavity. This causes irritation, and over time, scar tissue develops. The scar tissue creates a condition called asbestosis that makes breathing difficult. Asbestos is a carcinogen and can cause lung cancer as well as mesothelioma. Malignant mesothelioma is a cancer of the tissue that surrounds the lungs. It takes decades for asbestos-related diseases to progress to the point where they become noticeable. With mesothelioma, the first symptom is usually shortness of breath during exercise. This is so insignificant that it can go unnoticed or ignored until the disease progresses to a more severe stage and spreads throughout the body. Eventually, breathing becomes difficult even at rest and may be accompanied by severe chest pain. In the early stages, doctors can do surgery to remove the tumor before it has a chance to metastasize. If the cancer has already spread, surgery is less effective. In those situations, the doctors use chemotherapy and radiation to try to slow the growth of the cancer, but there is no cure. Thank you for watching. This video was produced by Asbestos.Net, a leading resource on all aspects of asbestos and mesothelioma. Our priority is to inform victims about the devastating effects of asbestos exposure, mesothelioma, asbestos cancer, asbestosis, and other asbestos-related diseases, and to advise them with a wealth of information. Individuals whose lives have been touched by mesothelioma have numerous questions and concerns. Their caregivers and family members also need accurate, reliable information. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with mesothelioma or asbestos cancer and need more information, we invite you to visit and explore the thousands of pages of oncologist-reviewed material on Asbestos.Net, to call our convenient toll-free number shown below and speak with a mesothelioma specialist, or to use the simple contact form found at Asbestos.Net to request a free copy of our informative books, custom inserts, and DVD. Asbestos.Net.
information, and help for patients and families.